Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of I Am Essence, where we share tips and feature incredible guests who help us transform and align with our best selves. I am your host, Taylor Scarpello. Today, I had the pleasure to sit down with Kate Morton, registered dietitian and owner and founder of Funkit Wellness, a women-owned menstrual health company. After years of struggling with many life-altering side effects of birth control, she decided enough was enough and wanted to embrace her period and learn more about her cycle. After stopping birth control, her period decided to ghost her for 6 months. When it finally returned, it was horrific with ear to ear hormonal acne, thinning hair, and cramps so bad she couldn't go to work, and intense mood swings. After doing tons of research and looking for food based approaches to menstrual health, putting her dietitian degree to good use, she was introduced to seed cycling. At first, she didn't believe it would work, but was absolutely desperate. After 3 months, her acne, cramps, and mood had done a total 360, and she knew she had to share this method with others. Kate's goal is to make Funkit a safe nutrition backed space for anyone struggling with hormone imbalance so we can honor our cycles and bodies. Well, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to chat about Funkit. As you know, I'm obsessed with the products, your brand, the whole message behind the brand. It's truly changed my life. My hormones are so happy, but I think my parents are even a little bit more happier because they don't have to hear the food processor at like 7 in the morning.
It is
And
definitely a good time saver.
it is. And especially so during COVID, my sister had some of her classes at home. So she was in class at like 8 a.m. and I would be grinding up my seeds and I would have to like run, do it really fast, and then try to make breakfast. But yeah, it is a complete game changer. And seed cycling has completely changed my whole cycle.
Yay. Well, I love to hear that. It's like so fun how social media can bring people together. Cause I think I saw you
Yeah.
on TikTok first. I'm like, oh my God, she looks so cool. I wonder if she wants to
Aw.
seed cycle. And then, cause it is true. Like the thing with, we get a lot of people who are like, oh, I've tried to do it on my own, which I always recommend to people like, hey, if you want to do it on your own, you can totally do it on
Mhm.
your own. Like we're not like gatekeeping anything. Like you can totally do this at home. But a lot of people will message us after they've done it with us a few months and be like, and I know this happened to you too. Like
Yeah.
I've been seed cycling and not seeing the results I wanted to see. And then I started using your seeds.
Yeah.
And I swear it's because our sourcing is like, I'm such a nutrition nerd. I like looked at so many spec sheets for seeds. I like did
Yeah.
so many like traceable, like trace the seeds back to their origin. So, anyways, all that to say, like, yes, we try to provide a convenient, high quality product for everybody to enjoy.
And it's true. I've noticed the difference because I was just going to Whole Foods buying organic sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, flax seeds,
Which
sesame
is still
seeds.
expensive. Like
Hmm.
I do it every once in
Exactly.
a while. I do like a test because like we want to make sure we're being transparent with our pricing.
Exactly.
And so I go to Whole Foods like probably once a quarter and I will buy a month's worth of stuff.
Yeah,
When I tell you it comes out like not exactly the same price, but not far off.
exactly. And it makes it so much easier, especially the way you break down the packaging, where it's all you have to do is track your cycle, and then as soon as you're at that next phase, you just grab the next seeds. Your body knows, and it just start incorporating, and it makes it so much easier. So, can you explain seed cycling for someone who has never heard of it and what the great benefits are?
Yeah. So if you're hanging on with us still, us just like nerding out about all the food we love to eat on our cycle. So here's what seed cycling is. So seed cycling takes your menstrual cycle, and there are 4 phases, and we can go over those too, but
Mhm.
it kind of looks at it in 2 halves. So you're going to have estrogens dominant in one phase and progesterone's dominant in the other. So from the first day of your period till when you ovulate, your body is kind of focusing on estrogen. Noted your hormones are low on your period and they're supposed to be. But then the process is building estrogen back up, getting that egg
Mhm.
ready to release at ovulation. That's going to be pumpkin and flax. So if you are doing this at home, it's 1 tablespoon of pumpkin, 1 tablespoon of flaxseed, ground every day, organic. So, or if you're with Funkit, you use your nurture blend, which is all done for you. Then after you ovulate, and this is the biggest question I get, when do I switch my seeds? Is it the day I ovulate, the day before, the day after? The day after you've confirmed that you've ovulated, which can be through another number of different ways. Some people just use their period tracker. They're not going to be super precise about it. They're okay with it being a prediction and they switch. Some people use temperature tracking and cervical mucus tracking, which kind of combine with your period tracker as the fertility awareness method. So either way, you figure out when you ovulated, then the next day you start having 1 tablespoon of sesame and 1 tablespoon of sunflower seeds. Grind them up and eat them every single day. And then when your period starts, it starts all over again. So it really is as simple as tracking your cycle, choosing like your seeds, and then cycling through and switching. So it sounds complicated, but once you're in a rhythm, it's super straightforward.
It's true. And it's completely changed my life. I like to implement all of the seeds in my breakfast. That way I get them in first thing in the morning. And would you agree that when they are ground up, it's a little bit easier for your body to digest and process them? Just making sure that you're getting all of those great nutrients in.
Yeah. And so here's the thing. Either way, seeds are great. Like if you're just eating seeds in your daily life and you're not like really worried about the nutrition inside of them, they're great prebiotic fiber. But if you are wanting to get the nutrients out of them, they need to be ground because look, we are not going to sit and chew each individual seed for like 20 minutes. And so if you think about the outside of a seed, like the purpose of a seed is to actually, make it through an animal's digestive tract. Sorry about that. And then they will poop the seed out and then it will grow into a whole new plant. So the casing on the outside is pretty intense. And so you have to break that casing on the outside for your body to be able to absorb it. Because I always challenge people to look at their poop when they're going to the bathroom. It's really important. If you're eating whole seeds, I guarantee you're going to see them almost exactly the same in the toilet bowl. So that's a long way of saying, yes, you should grind them. It makes the nutrients more bioavailable. And then it's going to actually ensure that you're getting those nutrients that you're wanting to get.
I love that. That is perfect. That is such an easy explanation. So how did you discover seed cycling and start to implement it into your own day-to-day routine?
Yeah, so it's funny. So a little bit about me, I'm a registered dietitian and I used to be a pediatric dietitian and then I was living in New Zealand. Yeah, so like I wasn't always in hormones.
Really?
I was a peds dietitian first.
That's amazing. Where did you get your degree from?
So I got my undergrad degree from the University of Montevallo, and then I did my dietetic internship, and then I got my master's at the University of Alabama, and I did my fellowship at Children's of Alabama.
That's amazing.
That's all my education, but it's interesting. So being a pediatric dietitian, I worked in the pulmonary unit. I saw a lot of very little babies. And so I actually was working with moms quite often. And so I didn't know this, but I was getting primed and prepped to like be in this hormone world. And then I kind of moved into fertility.
Okay.
Because fertility was something that like I would get lots of questions about. But then when I was living in New Zealand, I got off of hormonal birth control, which look, I like to preface this, especially with everything going on in the world. If birth control works for you, I am not here to change your mind. Like it is your body, your choice. You can do whatever you like with it. But for me, it didn't work. I've been on it for 10 years. I've been on pretty much like every birth control you could be on because I would go in and I would be like, this isn't working for me, to the point where I was the 1% of people that had like an allergic reaction to Yaz and like my throat closed. And so,
oh my gosh,
there's all these I would like had to go to the ER on prom because of my birth control. Like I just switched birth controls. Like, so I had all these crazy reactions to birth control and it did not work for my body. And I was willing to do anything. I was like, I have to get off of this. So finally, after being on it for 10 years and being miserable, I was like, okay, I'm going to get off of it. And I actually had the implant in my arm and they wouldn't take it out in the US because I hadn't had it in for 5 years. And they're like, I should rephrase that. They would take it out, but it was going to be $1,000 with my insurance because my 5 years wasn't up. And it was like, oh my gosh. And they kept saying to me like, oh, you're moving to New Zealand. You don't want to have a baby. You need to just keep this in, blah, blah. But I was like bleeding every day. And I had back acne, like all this crazy stuff. Yeah, it sucked. And so then I got to New Zealand and they're like, oh yeah, we'll take it out for free. And I was like, oh, cool. So I got it out and I was so excited. I'm like, I'm going to feel so good. No, felt so bad because I didn't do anything. I didn't know that, birth control, it can take time for your body to recalibrate, especially like the depot shot or the implant are like,
Yes.
they have like longer times for your body to recalibrate. It says that your cycle will return immediately, but like if you read some of the peer-reviewed research, that's not actually what they found. It can be about 6 months, which mine was right on 6 months when my period came back. So yeah, it was crazy. Like my acne, like every symptom that I had and why I got on birth control came flooding back. And I was so confused at the time, but now it makes sense because now I know if you don't address the root cause of an issue, you know, it's not going to work. And I'd love to say seed cycling was a magic bullet, but I do hate to break it to everyone. Seed cycling is not a magic bullet. It is a lot of lifestyle changes I had to make. But yeah,
but it's one of the great, pieces of the puzzle.
Exactly. And it was essential for mine. And so when I got off birth control, you know, finally got my period back, but then I got really bad hormonal acne, like really painful, like ear to ear acne. I had, which I know we talked about and bonded over, really bad cramps, like couldn't get out of bed. My mood swings were so terrible. Like I was missing work and I'm like a workaholic, unfortunately. So like for me to call in sick is like a big deal. And I was trying everything and I started doing research and I was so disappointed because all that I could find were like gummy vitamins or like just like brands I didn't feel like I trusted and they understood me. And then like I was also still counseling patients and clients and they would ask me for supplement recommendations. And I was like, honestly, I just don't trust anybody. And I kind of was like, well, maybe I should do something. And I was originally going to make a protein powder, which was so weird because I don't even like protein powder, but I was like, oh, protein's important. Anyways, fast forward, I got introduced to seed cycling and I really didn't believe it was going to work. It sounded too simple. You know, like I think we've overcomplicated wellness.
We do, especially as females too. We think we have to go to the extreme or I have to take all of these supplements and then it's going to change my life. When really it's these smallest changes make the biggest results.
It's so true. And like, I think that is just like, it hits the nail on the head. Like we've overcomplicated wellness. And so, you know, when I heard about seed cycling and I'll be honest, like a friend introduced me to it and I didn't invent it by any means. And so I was like, there's just no way. And then I started doing it. And after about 3 months, and look, I also started drinking more water. I used to be like addicted to long distance running and I cut back on and like HIIT training and I cut back on those. So I started doing more low impact exercise, drinking a lot more water, getting a lot more sleep and seed cycling. And after 3 months, my acne was healing, wasn't gone, but it was healing. And I didn't have any new acne. My period came for the first time that I can ever remember, just like showed up. And I was like, what? Like I was so confused. And, you know, it was just this awakening moment of, wow, what we eat and what we do really has so much impact on our period. And, you know, if you feel bad 2 weeks out of the month for 40 years of your life, it's a lot of time.
Exactly. And I had a very similar story like yours. I personally was never on birth control. I was always looked at as like the crazy friend because all of my friends growing up were on birth control. And I remember that in college, they would all have their alarms set. It's like, oh, it's like 9 o'clock at night.
It's like a cool girl thing.
Exactly.
You know?
Their alarms would go off and then they would all take their birth control. But when I had cystic acne my entire life. And when I was a senior in high school, the last resort my dermatologist said was you have to go on birth control. My parents said no, absolutely not. We're going to try to find some alternative. And later down the road, eventually was able to clear that up. But I was also an athlete and my hormones were just a mess. Like I would have a cycle and then I wouldn't have a cycle. And it was just this awful stress on my body. And I remember back in the fall of 2021, so my birthday's in November, I was turning 25 and I was like, I need to get everything under control, even though like I'm nowhere near getting ready to like settle down and have kids. But when the time comes, I don't want to have to be struggling to get my hormones in check. And that's when I discovered seed cycling and started implementing it. And it's true, right after that 3-month mark, that's when you do start to notice the changes. And even though, again, that wasn't the only thing I was doing to balance my hormones, I was drinking more water, making sure I was syncing my cycle with my workouts, seed cycling. So I was doing all of the work. But if you start to combine all the pieces of the puzzle, you're going to be able to rebalance, reset the body, and really allow your body to thrive.
Yeah. And like circling back to what you just said, like it's important to hear, like, you don't have to like wait till you're ready to have kids to care about your cycle, because, I'm 28. I've got
Mhm.
no idea if that's in the cards for me at
Exactly.
all. Like, I've got no idea, but fertility, like, I hate that fertility has become so associated with having children, like,
It's
which, like,
true.
it really is, isn't it? Like, they're like,
Mhm.
oh, why do you care? I get asked all the time, why do you care about your period if you don't even know if you want to have kids? And I'm like, what? Well, I don't think those things are mutually
No,
exclusive.
it doesn't. And when you're able to, especially for females, when you're able to have a normal cycle, you're able to start to recognize different like your mood, your different points of your cycle, and then you're able to kind of piece your life accordingly so that you're able to be in tune with your body a lot easier, and you're able to show up as the best version of yourself. And if you don't feel good that day, you're able to recognize why you aren't feeling good. Why didn't I have a good workout? Or if you go into the gym one day, and this actually happened to me today because my cycle's about to start the end of the week, where even though I picked up a 25-pound dumbbell yesterday, felt great. Today, I'm like, oh, why does this feel so heavy? So if you become in tune with your body and in tune with your life, and then you're able to kind of line everything up accordingly.
Yeah. And it's just so important. And a lot of people will say, and you might be thinking this if you're listening, like, well, why would I like change my whole month to have a better period? Or like, why would I even care? And it's like, 9 out of 10 of us, we're changing our lives to accommodate a bad period. So
Mm-hmm.
why don't we just make a couple tweaks in our daily life to have a good period? And so regardless, you're most likely changing your life and your schedule for your cycle. But like, if you're in control of it, it can feel a lot better. And also, it's things that are good for your overall health. Eating
Yes.
seeds, good for your overall
Yes.
health. Getting enough sleep, good for your overall health. And it's just crazy because we're not taught any of this. And so I think that's why it can feel so foreign. Or maybe if you're listening, it doesn't feel foreign, but to me, it felt foreign. I was
Same
so
here.
skeptical. I was like, why would I change my whole life?
Yes.
This seems so excessive. This seems so ridiculous. And then you just slowly start doing it and it feels so right. And it feels like you're finally in your flow. And like, I'm in my luteal phase too. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm entering my late luteal phase and I've just been exhausted. And so
Yes.
it happens to me sometimes because I'm so bad about just like running myself into the ground, which is like something I'm still working on.
I am too. I think it's that entrepreneurial mindset.
Recovering girl bosses.
Exactly. Because your business is your baby. And it's like you just want it to grow and succeed. So I hear you.
And like, so what it looks like for me now is like, oh yeah, I'm in my luteal phase. I'm definitely, I'm burning 300 extra calories on average a day, and I'm exhausted. I'm a little more tired. So what that looks like for me is today I chose to work from home so I could get an hour of extra sleep. I am choosing to do lower impact walks and get outside in the morning and see
Yes.
the sun and do all these things. So well, it might seem crazy to think about all of this. It actually, if I were have to make myself get up, force myself to get ready, gone to the office and
Mhm.
suffered through my day, like, it doesn't seem like the
You'd
life
be
I want to
miserable.
live. I want to live a life.
Exactly.
And I know not everyone can do that. And so I recognize, if you've got to be in the office every day, or like, it can be a little overwhelming, but it's like, what little thing can you do? Could you take a 5-minute break a couple times, like throughout the day? Could you get up and walk around? Could you maybe schedule your meetings so that you don't have so many in those weeks?
Mhm.
It's not like, I know that my life revolves around my period quite literally because I own a business about periods. And so I recognize there is like some difference there, but like, I did used to have a tech sales job, like when I was first doing all of this. And like, what
Mhm.
I would do is just like, make sure like I would have my seeds in the morning, because when I was first starting Funk It, I was still working a full-time job, a
Yep.
part-time job, and then I had Funk It. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to make sure I have my seeds every morning as like my first step of my ritual. I'm going to make sure I have time to move my body. But that's kind of a rant, but that's just like general, cyclical living rant.
So do you encourage your employees to also honor their bodies and their hormones?
Oh yeah. I was just talking to one of the people who works with us yesterday, and she has endometriosis, and her specific job doesn't always allow her to work from home.
Mhm.
But I told her, let's figure out how we can make this happen or how we can make it work.
Yeah.
We really just encourage, we're a small team. So it doesn't mean that we all get to I don't know, sometimes certain people have to be in the office.
Exactly.
But it's how can we make this as flexible as possible? How can we make communication as open as possible? Because really all you need is good planning. Everyone, I just got asked about menstrual leave for an article in a magazine, and I was telling them, they were asking questions like, don't you think it holds women back? Don't you think all these things? And I was like, no. And I think where it starts is openness and flexibility.
Yes.
Menstrual leave doesn't have to look like everyone gets a week off for their period. Menstrual leave can be, the first step can be, hey, I know that you usually pack and ship in the afternoon, but you are feeling worse in the afternoon. Let's see if we can help you in the morning, and maybe you can just get the morning ones done, and then I'll come in and do the afternoon ones. Or it looks like swapping days, or it looks like actually you do need a day off and you can't come in, and that's okay. It's just flexibility and openness, and we have to trust women. You have to trust women. If they are telling you, I guarantee they don't want to tell you they don't feel well.
Oh, absolutely not. Because I think that just goes, even just with social media, where you always have to look and feel your best when it's okay not to, because I guarantee everyone else or every other woman is going through the exact same thing, because a lot of times all of our cycles are always going to be synced up either with the moon or with each other. So 9 times out of 10, both feeling the same way.
Yeah. And it's just one of those things where we have to trust women. We have to be and just create a safe space so people can ask for what they need, because forcing someone to come into work when they feel terrible, what's actually going to get accomplished? If I feel bad, I know I'm not doing my best work, and I would never want anyone on my team to feel that pressure. And we're not perfect at it. We're small. We're a scrappy little startup, but we try our best, and we do try to take an account for that. And it's funny you asked that, because we literally just had that conversation yesterday. And I really think everyone can incorporate some kind of menstrual leave into their business. And like I said, it can be as simple as, if you're an in-person office, allowing work from home days. It can be as simple as that. It does not have to be an excessive leave policy.
It's true. And so I went to an all girls Catholic high school, and there were so many times throughout my cycle where I would stay home because my cramps were so bad. And I always, even in college, missing class, I always felt that guilt that, I'm not sick. I don't have the flu, but it was because my cramps were so awful. I used to get them so bad to the point where I almost passed out. I never physically passed out, but it was on the verge. And there were so many times where I missed exams, tests because of my cramps. And my high school, even though it was an all girls school, they never took that into consideration.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, it's just one of those things where maybe if we valued cyclical living a little bit more, we wouldn't even be in this situation. Because I'll tell you something, I had also horrible periods in high school, missed a bunch of school while I got on birth control, but I also didn't know that there was so much I could naturally do to help my period. And when I went to talk to, a healthcare professional, they weren't taught that stuff in school either. So as easy as it is to want to be frustrated, with doctors specifically, it's really our system that it's not teaching us preventative care. It's not honoring the menstrual cycle. We're not learning these things. So, I mean, yeah, also if you don't want anyone to be sick, then let's teach people how to be well,
Exactly. And I think there's so much misinformation out there right now with social media, and hormone health is huge. I don't know if you have seen it on TikTok or even on Instagram, but there is so much information out there right now. I guess you would say it's trending. But I feel that a lot of girls right now are kind of who are in their later 20s, they're starting to see all of the side effects of birth control. And when now that they do want to start to have kids and settle down, they're like, oh, now I'm going to start to come off birth control, thinking that this transition is going to be so easy. And the day they come off birth control, it's like, oh, I could get pregnant the next day, when it's not like that. You have to go through this whole, I guess, like a detox period almost, and a whole reset.
Yeah, and there's evidence too that even if you can get pregnant right off of birth control, it's not always the best idea.
Exactly.
I'm pretty sure the recommendation per like peer reviewed literature is waiting 12 months after you come off birth control, and really like focusing on nutrition during those 12 months. Because if you think about it, like that baby is your body's, your body's making a baby, it's its primary focus. And so it's pulling
Exactly.
nutrients from you. So it's pulling them from your bones, it's pulling it from your blood, like all these different things. So you want to really make sure that you're nutritionally ready if that
Yes.
is your goal.
It's true. And just being able to provide for that baby in the highest and best way that you can, and just truly set up your body for success, for a successful pregnancy. So what would you say are 3 lifestyle changes that you would suggest others to become aware of and start to implement in order to rebalance their hormones, if they are just trying to rebalance their hormones, period, or if they are going through that birth control detox period?
The first thing I always tell people is stress management. And, like my 3 tips, I'm going to give you like 3 things you can do for free. And then I'll do 3 things that I really enjoy, like product wise. So the first one is sleep. And I was always a night owl. I was always like burning myself out, running off of 4 hours of sleep. It was like a badge of honor to be exhausted. Especially in college, I really feel like it was like, oh, I didn't sleep at all. Yeah, I pulled an all-nighter, or like, oh, I
You
was
thought it was
working all
cool.
night.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so that's one thing I really tell people is like focusing on sleep hygiene. And then like a product that goes with that I really love is the Aura Ring, which I have my Aura Ring on. But it helps a lot with sleep hygiene. It is a little expensive, but it's really great. And they actually now integrate with natural cycles, so you can track and chart your temperature for birth control. So that's cool. So sleep, and like that looks different for everyone. The reason I like the Aura Ring, so it's interesting, is like my husband and I would always tease him because we go to bed at the same time, and he'd wake up so tired. And I was like, okay, there's no way, like we're getting the same amount of sleep. But our rings, I'm actually like a really efficient sleeper. So my sleep efficiency is like a 90. So like if I get in bed for 8 hours, I'm most likely going to sleep for like 7 hours and 55 minutes. Or if I'm in bed for 9 hours, I'm going to sleep for 9 hours. He can be in bed 12 hours and only get 8 hours of sleep. And so, everybody's different. And so really figuring out, your sleep patterns, your sleep hygiene, and reining it back in, because your body is rejuvenating while you're sleeping. And like hormones are built inside the body. And don't think a lot of people understand, it's not something that just exists. They're catabolic, so they're built. And so it takes energy, it takes time, it takes sleep, it takes food, fuel, all of these things to build hormones. So stress management is huge. And that goes hand in hand with sleeping. Because if you are not having enough sleep, you are going to most likely be putting your body in a state of stress. And so when we think about stress, I think we usually think, oh, I had a bad day, or I have a lot going on at work, or a lot going on in my personal life. Those are stress. But there are other types of stress.
Exactly.
Underfeeding your body, stress. Over exercising, stress. Not getting enough sleep, stress. Having too much caffeine, stress. Having too much alcohol, stress. And so it's one of those things where like you're like, oh, I'm not stressed, but then you are doing all these things that are stressing your body out.
Exactly.
So your body wants to exist in balance, and it is spending its day. I always think about like inside my body, like everything running around trying to like maintain homeostasis. So really like be kind to your body. Make sure you're feeding it. Make sure you're drinking enough water. Make sure you're getting enough sleep. Moving your body, going on walks. Like it doesn't have to, I always thought, oh, well, if I'm not going to run 3 miles, then it's not worth it. And like, that's so not true. I go on like a mile walk now, or half a mile walk, and it's great movement for my body. So find a way to maintain stress. For me, I really enjoy yoga and acupuncture, but those again are like investments in my health. And so like there's plenty of things you can do, yeah, free. You can put your feet up the wall. It helps to reset your adrenal system.
Mm-hmm.
That was really helpful for me. I remember when I was dealing with estrogen dominance, my friend who's a nurse practitioner, and she works more on the functional side, she was like, just put your feet up the wall every night before bed to help with stress. And I was like, no, you gotta be joking me. This isn't real. It worked. It's great.
It does.
It works. And then I think the third thing, which goes in with the second thing, is feeding your body and listening to your body. And so, we are in such a culture of shrink yourself to fit into society in so many different ways, whether it's your personality, your body, whatever.
Especially for women too.
Especially for women. And it's such BS. Like thinness or whatever doesn't equal health. And I know that we've been taught that our entire lives, but actually what matters is feeding your body and listening to your body and, really focusing on balancing your blood sugar, which I think that's another thing we don't talk about a lot is like, you only hear about, oh, if you have blood sugar, impairment, then we'll talk about blood sugar. But really blood sugar is something, insulin's a hormone. And a lot of people don't realize that it's a hormone. And so what insulin does is when you eat, it takes the glucose from your food. All your food turns into glucose for the most part. Then it basically like unlocks your cells so the energy can get in there and then you're feeling good. When your blood sugar is low, that's going to be, very shaky. You're going to be hangry. And when it's high, you're going to be really lethargic and tired and kind of like a little grumpy. So keeping it in the middle. So having a fat, fiber, and protein at each meal. And that does not mean counting macros. That means looking at learning to eyeball your plate and get to know your food. So like a great example is like, if you're going to have like egg, then have that's like a good protein source. You can have some avocado, you can have some spinach and greens with it and some fruit. And so like, you've got some fat, fiber, and protein. You're going to be fuller longer. It's going to keep your blood sugar more stable, which then doesn't stress your body out, which then makes sleep easier. So it's kind of like a cascade. And then of course, okay, so I already love my Aura Ring, which is one product. I love seed cycling. Seed cycling to me is, I know I own a seed cycling company, but I really do it every day. And I will never not do it. Like I'm obsessed with it. And I know like I can go through like all the research on seeds. I can go through the research on supporting estrogen. I can go through the research on supporting progesterone. There's only one peer-reviewed research study on seed cycling. I'm well aware of that, but you guys, like it works.
It does.
It worked for me. It worked for so many people. So I will die on that hill that I will seed cycle.
I will die with you. So you will not be alone.
I love seed cycling. And I think it does a few beautiful things besides just nourishing your body and helping like feeding your hormones. One, you're intentionally making a choice to take care of your cycle every day. And you're tracking your cycle. So you know where you are, you're doing something good for yourself. And there is so much merit in just like engaging your body and taking care of it. So I love that. Two, we're getting lots of fiber while we're seed cycling. Our country is chronically deficient in fiber and a lot of other things, but specifically fiber. And having a healthy digestive system is a huge part of having healthy hormones. A lot of people don't realize that excess hormones can also be excreted through the digestive system, aka your poop. So gotta have enough fiber. So seed cycling, my Aura Ring. What else do I love? Gotta think about this. I mean, probably my yoga membership. That's probably like the other thing that I just love. And like I love period undies. I love menstrual cups. I love just kind of all of that stuff that can bring you more in alignment. Like my menstrual cup definitely helped me get familiar with my body more than I ever was,
Really? So. I've honestly never used one. I was always scared of them.
They're a little scary in the beginning. Just like they can be a little like when you're learning, they can be a little messy. So they recommend like changing in the shower.
Okay.
So then you're not nervous about being like in a
maybe
public
I'll
toilet
try one.
Trying to change it. I really love mine. And I used to be like I said, a long distance runner, and I loved it because I could just wear it and run. I had a tampon fall out one time while I was running a race. I had to like pull it out.
Oh no.
So I'm like a menstrual cup girl for sure. And period undies.
Oh my,
that was a long answer too. I feel like there's so many things I could talk about. Like I just love all the things.
Never in a million years would I ever think that I would be passionate about hormones. I was always the girl. It's like, oh, like in health class, I'm like, oh, like I don't want to talk about this. Like, can we just like avoid this topic?
That is a great point to touch on because same. Like when people say to me like, "Oh, well, it's easy for you." And I'm like, "No. I
No,
hid my period for a whole year from my mom." I told her after my first period because she
no.
bought me so many
Oh.
things that like I could basically use them for a year. She kept being like, "Has your period come back?" And I was like, "No." Because I started early, like I started in 5th grade and a lot of my friends didn't start till high school.
Yep.
So
I
like
was
they
I was
started later.
11.
Yeah,
It was
I
on Halloween too.
oh,
It was awful. I was in school
I
and
was in
yeah,
school too. I
had
still can
no
remember it.
idea. Oh,
Like
I
a
remember
core
it to the
memory.
day.
Yes.
I was in school and it just happened that my mom she was my sister's class mom, and we were in our gym uniforms because of Catholic school. And so she was at the school and she came over to tell me, and I'm like, no, like I'm fine. Well, went to the bathroom and I was like, well, mom was right. And I just like immediately broke down crying.
I know it's so scary. I remember it specifically. Like, okay, it's like a core memory. I had khaki pants on. I was at recess and I had like a blue Abercrombie shirt on. I like remember the whole outfit. And I was at recess and I remember being like, and so I went to the
Mhm.
bathroom and then I was like,
Yeah.
and then I went to the nurse and my mom came pick me up. My mom was like so excited. And I was like
Exactly.
not happy about it. And
Yeah.
so I never thought that I would talk about this, but I think it's one of those things that it's like one of those like points in life when you realize that the world wasn't made for you, but you can make a world for yourself is
Exactly.
just life changing.
It's so true. And there's so many different ways and tools that you can use to honor yourself and honor your body. And it's not selfish. Your body was made to be healthy, to be fruitful. So why not use it for its power and knowledge and just be able to be your best self?
I totally agree.
So, what are some of your favorite recipes on seed cycling, and how can you funk it into your own daily life?
Yeah. So one that I just actually did, it's going out in our email tomorrow. It's like my favorite like summer recipe
Oh,
is sourdough toast, a little bit of like organic goat cheese. And so what you do is you take the goat cheese and you mix it with the seeds.
mhm.
And crazy enough, guys, like I can have dairy now. Couldn't have dairy forever because I thought it was causing my acne. Now that I see cycle, I can have dairy in small amounts and it's great. But I mix the goat cheese with the seeds and then you spread it on the toast and then you put blackberries on top and a little bit of arugula.
Ooh, that
So
sounds
good.
so good.
I'm totally a smoothie person. Like smoothies, I will say for me, I am a big routine creator, and seed cycling
Same.
does take that effort of creating a routine. And so I have like a smoothie every morning, and then I put the seeds in there with like some collagen, and that's really helpful for me. Some people do it differently. Like you can have them on salad. So it's really good
Mhm.
in salad. If you ever have like make a quinoa salad, you can like mix it in there or on top of like regular salad in the fall and the winter. So yummy on soups. Avocado toast, like really anything you can sprinkle something on top of, or yogurt. People love it
Mhm.
in yogurt. That seems to be like a really popular way to eat it. But yeah, I'm a smoothie person and I'm really boring and I do like the same different ingredients, but like the same thing or oatmeal.
That's what
I'll
I
switch
do.
to
I do it in
oatmeal.
my
So like
oatmeal.
I'm a summer smoothie gal. And then when it gets cold, which in Texas is not very often, I will switch to oatmeal because then that's like my next way to eat it.
Yeah.
But it really like infinite ways. We have a Pinterest board too. So you can check out our Pinterest board. We've got lots of good recipes. And then also, if you join our email list, we only send out 2 emails a month. And the first one on the new moon is an educational email. So we pick a topic and we like go through all the research on a certain topic. And then on the full moon, we send out a recipe email, an ingredient of the month email. They're like in one. And so we choose the ingredients in season that month, and then we turn it into a seed cycling recipe and we teach you how to do the same.
I I love that. That is such a great way. I personally put them in my oatmeal. I'm
Yeah.
so routine based too. I pretty much eat like the same thing
What's your favorite
every
oatmeal recipe? Tell us.
oh, so this is like my go-to glowing skin hormone health oatmeal. So I do oats with blackberries, raspberries, blueberries, collagen, cacao powder, um, the Funkit seeds, depending upon which cycle. So I'll switch them up based upon my cycle. And then I'll have an apple and almond butter.
That sounds amazing and so blood sugar balancing, keep you full.
It's my favorite. It's my go-to for hormone health, glowing skin. I've been eating it for the past
And you know what? This
2
is a
years.
side note, and I know you talk about this all the time. I wish someone would have told me how important like nutrition, gut health, and hormone health were for skin health.
It's
Because
true.
think about how many products, and like everyone can sell whatever products they want. I own a consumer packaged goods company too, but like I have spent so much money on skincare. And like when I tell you my skincare routine, like is so simple now, and it mostly was just focusing on nutrition.
Yep.
It's like a little bit mind blowing how much money we've probably spent. Like your routine can be so simple.
It's
like
so true because your skin, your gut, and your hormones are all linked together. And it honestly, it took me a long time to be able to realize that well into my 20s, because my skin started breaking out when I was 10 years old and was on every antibiotic under the sun, orally, topically. Nothing worked. And then also trying different skincare products, from being on Proactive to Murad to going all the way out to Beverly Hills, going purchasing products on Rodeo Drive. So I've tried everything when it comes to cheap drugstore stuff, all the way to very expensive high-end stuff. Nothing worked until I found the root cause and started to rebalance, reset your body, but also reset your skin, where you don't have to be using these insane medical grade products, where if you just use simple organic ingredients found right within the earth, your skin is going to truly reap the rewards. But also make sure your gut and your hormones are in check, because everything is linked together.
You know what's interesting? When I was living in New Zealand, that's kind of when this all started, was actually the first time I was introduced to the connection between hormone health and skin health. It's different there. Like you go to like a general practitioner who then has a specialty. So he was a general practitioner who specialized in skin health.
Wow.
And so it's different, like how it's set up. And I went for my acne because I was all I wanted was a vitamin A cream. That's like, okay. I went there like wanting that. And he told me, he was like, hey, this looks like it's hormonally related. I want you to do a few things before I prescribe you this intense topical medication. Yeah. And he's like, don't worry. If you're not seeing like any results, like I'll prescribe it to you, but I need you. So that's when he was telling me about dairy. And so that's like, and like for a while, my gut couldn't handle dairy. It can't handle it again, which is another beautiful thing. Just because you can't have something now doesn't, like, unless you're allergic. I'm allergic to shellfish. I'll never be able to have shellfish.
Exactly.
But I have like a dairy intolerance, and I can actually have dairy again. And like, it's really nice because I'm not limiting myself. But he was like dairy. And then he's the one who got me really thinking about like omega-3s and things like seed cycling. And so then, it's interesting. He did that. And then I got introduced to seed cycling, and it was like this crazy serendipitous moment. And I never needed to go on the vitamin A cream.
That's amazing. Because in the US, it's completely different, where you go, you see the nurse, they take your intake, doctor comes in for maybe 2 seconds. They don't even examine you. They already know what they're going to prescribe, because every other patient's on the exact same protocol.
Yeah.
And then
you come prescribe me anything. He actually was like, I want you to make these dietary changes before I prescribe you anything. And, it's interesting because like, I don't know like how the pharmaceutical industry works there. And like, that's a whole other podcast we could have, but like, what does it look like when, we are prescribing diet and lifestyle changes, or, we are just simply recognizing like, hey, your hormones look like they might be the root cause of this. Like what's going on? And that's when I was running like all of those races and like crazy stuff. And he was like, you got to stop. Like, you can't do that. Cause like my period wasn't coming. It was like all these things. So
I went through the same thing.
My skin doctor is the one who actually got me on this like whole train.
That's amazing. And so fascinating.
He's awesome. I love him.
That's amazing. Well, it was, first of all, such a pleasure having you on. This was so empowering, but can you share all of the Funkit information, your socials for our audience?
Yeah. Okay. So I hope this makes sense. We are luteal phase brain here. So this is like a stream of consciousness podcast. But so funkitwellness.com is where you can find all of our products. We've got seed cycling kits. We've got a maca powder, which I actually have right here because I just put in my smoothie before I jumped on here. We've got a revitalized blend, which is actually for perimenopause. So that's just like a quick education piece. Perimenopause can start as early as 35. It's kind of when our cycles start to change. It is not the same thing as menopause. It's just another change in our cycle. And we have a blend specifically for that has more phytoestrogen and more calcium in it. Same seeds, different concentrations. We have a new product that's launching very soon, which is going to be amazing. And of course, you will know first. So your audience will know first. And yeah, so that's where you can find our products. We've got a subscription option. We've got a one-time purchase option. We're always available via email to answer any questions. Then our Instagram is funk.it.wellness. Again, if you want to connect with us there, send us a DM, tag us in anything. We love getting to communicate. And then we have TikTok, which we would love for you guys to go follow because we're still learning the ways of TikTok. And that's just Funk It Wellness. And then my personal Instagram is Carbs and Kate. And then my TikTok is Period Chats, which is the name of my podcast. So, if you need a whole hormone friendly podcast, go check that one out too. We just had an interview with a holistic OBGYN and he was really great. I learned a lot from him.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much. But before you go, I have 2 questions for you that I ask every guest before ending our episode. So the first one is, what is the best piece of advice that you've ever been given or any advice that you would like to share with us?
Oh, the best piece of advice. Honestly, I'm just going to tell you like the first one that comes to mind.
Yeah.
So one of my people I really look up to and, just really has influenced me a lot through my business journey. And, so when I started Funk It when I think came up with the idea when I was 25. So I've been working on it, my mid to late 20s. She told me, she was like, you've got to think bigger. You can't be thinking so small. You have to trust yourself and think bigger and see bigger. That was honestly just like a couple months ago. And just shifting your mindset to believe you're capable of anything. And, I know that it can be so hard. And the past 2.5 years have been ridiculously difficult for everyone. And I think it caused me, I think I always thought big. And then I think the past 2.5 years kind of crushed my spirit a little bit, or my sparkle, whatever was my flame from the inside out. I feel like it got a little put out and I wasn't myself anymore. And just that reminder to think bigger and that we're capable of anything we want to do. I know it's cliche. I know it's the oldest saying in the book, but it's that way for a reason. You are capable of whatever you want to do, whatever you put your mind to, and just think bigger. And, when it comes to your cycle, if you're focusing on hormone balance, it is a journey and it can be difficult, and hormones can cause a lot of emotions too. And sometimes balancing your hormones is dealing with past trauma. It's cutting out toxic people in your life. It's recalibrating your new normal. And so think bigger, believe you can do it because you can, and take care of your body because you deserve it. You deserve to feel well. You don't have to feel bad.
Exactly. I could not agree with that. Even, oh my gosh, that is absolutely beautiful. And you are worth it. You are so worthy of the life you desire and want to create. And now for our last question. So Essence is a huge part of the brand. We have our skincare brand, which is Sono Essence. And then Sono is I Am in Italian. And then our podcast is I Am Essence. So how would you define the word essence and what makes up your own essence?
Oh, so when I think of essence, I think of what is your secret sauce? What is your thing that, makes you who you are and kind of the essence of you. And so I think for me, my essence has been really getting comfortable enough to speak up and to talk about things people don't want to talk about and to trust myself and to love people. And I think that that's why I do what I do. I never wanted to start a business. I'm a dietitian. I didn't even go to business school. I didn't know anything about accounting when I started this. I didn't know anything about marketing products. I just knew how much I loved people around me and like how much better I felt and how I wanted everyone in my life to feel better. And so, like I think that my essence does come from having pure intentions. Like my intentions are always there to like help people. And so, yeah, that's what I think of when I think of essence.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. This was absolutely incredible and so empowering. Thank you everyone for listening in on this week's episode here at I Am Essence. Don't forget to listen in next Wednesday on your favorite podcast platform. And if you are listening in on Apple Podcasts, please leave us a review and we will see you next week.